So you end up in Florida. You're still in the restaurant business, right?
Yep.
Where were you working then?
Well, so that was the hospital.
Okay.
So basically, the whole transition of that was in these hospitals, the system that I was in, they were looking to get people from the restaurant industry that had expertise to run basically their regular food. They had, high-end cafeterias, you're cooking for doctors, the whole thing. So they wanted the expertise of someone outside of the hospital environment who was a restaurant person.
Right.
And then that's where the whole, me not wanting to be there anymore was, because I'm like, well, you brought me in because of my expertise, but now you want somebody to tell me who has no expertise in restaurants how to do it. And that's where the disconnect was.
Man, I don't know about every time I've been in the hospital, man, the food sucks.
Right.
It's usually, so they want you, brought you in to make bland food?
No, they brought me in to make better food, and then they're like, no, well, just do it the old way. I'm like, well, then why am I here?
Right, you get anyone to do
I don't think you need me. I should go sell a lot of life insurance.
Yeah, so that's when you left the food industry.
Yeah, I made the transition. I remember I did this part-time at the end of 2018.
Yeah.
Going into that convention at the beginning of 2019, and then just hit the ground running full-time.
Got it. So you were still at the hospital, but started with us part-time.
Yeah, it was like 2 months.
Yeah. Did you reach back out to Mark? How'd you?
Yeah, me and Mark had been talking just about the Dolphins, probably complaining about them, and then I
were brought together by a shitty football team.
Pretty much, yeah. So then he's telling me what he's doing. So this is obviously the first couple years of FFL, and I knew I had that interest in insurance. And he's like, dude, you'd be good at it. We have a lead system, the whole thing. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And it was something that went off in my brain. I was like, it's time to bet on you.
Yeah.
Because you felt like for years when you're working in corporate America like that, you got to you can do as much as you can do, but then you got to wait for some breaks. You got to wait for somebody who wants to give you the opportunity. And I just felt like the timing, it just took forever to get to next levels.
You feel like you had no control over it?
No control. And it was like, all right, you're just kind of going through the motions, and maybe you're going to get this promotion to make 10 grand more or whatever. And is that really the answer?
So at this point, how long were you in the food industry?
I mean, actually, in reality, you figure if I was 15, it's probably about 18 years, something like that, in that ballpark.
Wow. What did you like the most about that industry?
I like the fact that you did always have work.
Yeah.
So, yes, you
always got to eat, right?
Always got to eat. So, nights, weekends, holidays, didn't like that side, but I always knew, it was stable. People still had to eat. Things changed, obviously.
Yeah.
So, I think I always liked that, but I didn't like capped income, kind of promotions. You had to move all over the place, because that was another thing. I moved those 4 times. I bounced around, and it was just, I don't know. I always felt like you were searching for something that just wasn't necessarily there.
Yeah. Got it. Did any part of you feel like, man, I failed? Because you went down that path for so long, and now you're pulling out of it. You're going elsewhere. Did that set in at all, or was it just, this ain't it anymore? What was going through your mind when you finally made that decision to step out of that industry?
It didn't. I knew it was right. The time was right. And it's interesting because when I look back and I think about kind of the risks that you take doing this, we don't know. Nobody knows. It might work for you, it might not work for you. There's factors where we can show you the way of the things that we think are going to work. But I never doubted it was going to work, because I knew I was betting on me. I obviously also trusted Mark, who I know very, very well. I was able to obviously see what was going on here,
Yeah.
So I didn't have any I feel like I shouldn't do this or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, the chapter was closed. I was on to the next one.
Did Mark tell you he was the number one producer for a few years?
He really didn't.
He didn't, really.
He didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't.
It's funny, too. It's food industry. Maybe that's a secret, dude. Food industry, number one producer. Food industry, number one producer. Maybe we need to recruit more from Red Lobster, dude. I don't know.
I'll tell you why. Because we worked, you're working 60 hours a week, and you work until the job is done, and the job's never done. Because it's it opens in the morning and it closes late at night. And it's just, so I remember, and me and him have had this conversation numerous times, I'm going to take that work ethic here. And when you take that work ethic,
trying to recruit you, or was it just kind of you guys had this relationship, and then when the time was right, you recruited yourself, or how?
I think I recruited myself. I think he never was pushing or anything. He was yeah, you'd be good at this.
Yeah.
And then he left it alone. You know what I mean? He wasn't bashing me over the head with it day in and day out.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the one conversation where I had been looking, the dude that sold me the IUL, I was kind of looking at his company and what have you. And Mark's like, let me just tell you one thing. He's like, I don't care what you do. If you don't have leads, you're dead.
Yeah.
He goes, so just take that for what it's worth. And I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If I have nobody to sell to, and now here I do, where should I go?
Right. Gotcha. So when did you finally make that decision to start part-time?
Oh, to start part-time or
Yeah.
to start? Oh, it was November of 2018. I got my license. I think it was like the end of September. Yeah. And then I
what pushed you over that point? 'Cause you said you've been thinking about this, right? What made you finally take that step to get a license?
I was getting kind of forced out in my
Okay.
job, and I knew where it was headed.
Yeah.
So before it got there, I was like,
You saw the writing on the wall.
I got to make this happen.
Yeah.
And it was like, you just feel it. The stars align, and you're like, hey, I got to make this happen.
Yeah.
So I remember, going, getting the license, and then, it's interesting for part-time agents that want to transition full-time. It is probably the most challenging time because now you're literally, I'm working 40-hour work week, trying to do my other responsibilities as the husband and what have you, and now, all right, cool. Now you're going to work 2 days part-time, whatever.
Yeah.
So I remember I'm like, all right, I got to really bust it for 2 months, make sure I can make some money, feel good about it, and then boom, we're off to the races.
And never sold before. You said your mom did a Tupperware. You never helped her with that, or did
No.
you went out there trying to sell Tupperware for your
No,
mom?
that wasn't my game. I don't think I could do Tupperware as well.
Got it. So got the license. Start now. What were your hours part time? Like, did Mark have a conversation with you about what part time looks like here, or how did that transition?
He did, but I remember I was like, okay, if I'm working, 9 to 5,
Yeah.
I'm like, let me dial a couple of nights. Like I was dialing Monday night. I'd run maybe a couple appointments a Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I would dial Thursday, Friday, and I'd try and stack up Saturday.
Yeah.
And then take Sunday as a day of rest, whatever. And I just started doing that for that 2 months. And the first couple of weeks were not good. Like I was not good at this.
Wait, so you're telling me there was a time when Steve Giordano was not good at
There
life
was.
insurance?
It's, yeah.
I'm joking because, like, obviously, but there are people out there that look, at you or some of these top guys, and it's like they're in awe. Oh my God, I can't believe they do. But you're just a regular person.
Correct.
And you went through the same struggles.
Exactly.
You just had the work ethic and the drive to push through it.
You got to
maybe
fight
faster
through
than
it.
others,
That's
right?
it.